Let's go to Houston now, to Harris County, where commissioners there just slashed the property tax rate. Our next guest is the county judge in Harris County, Democrat Lina, who also just found out she faces a Republican challenger when she runs for re-election next year. Judge Hidalgo, thanks and welcome back to our program here. Let's start with the Commissioner's Court there in Harris County, cutting the effective property tax rate by 2.2%. Of course, county taxes only make up a small portion of what property owners pay, but it's still significant. I'm curious, how did it happen and why not go any deeper than that?
So one way to think about taxes is to think about the budget, right? Because ultimately that's what we need to collect the revenue for. And earlier this year in Harris County, our Commissioner's Court passed a budget unanimously in a bipartisan basis. And it was a budget that not only funded basic services, the usual roads and bridges, but also helped us catch up on some of the areas where we've been underfunded. For example, we have a lot of industry in Harris County, and there are chemical releases all the time. We didn't have air monitoring capabilities. Our public health department serves millions and millions of people, woefully underfunded. I mean, there are so many areas that just flew under the radar, and departments were afraid to ask for funds. And so that budget passed, and we needed that amount of taxes in order to be able to fund the budget that we passed. Now, ultimately, we actually passed around a 3% tax cut because that was the only proposal that we could get our Republican colleagues to support.
The COVID infection rate is fortunately falling again, but what are health experts in Harris County they're telling you that we might see this winter?
What I hear from the experts is so long as people aren't getting vaccinated, it's a little bit of a wild card out there. I think very few expected the outbreak from the Delta variant to be this extreme. It is possible that at some point, and I hope and we need to, be able to simply live with this. But in order to do that, we really need people to get vaccinated.
Judge, we just saw Hurricane Nicholas hit the Gulf Coast recently. President Biden's infrastructure plan, it does not include funding for the so-called Ike Dike, that offshore barrier like the one that New Orleans has that would protect the Gulf Coast from storm surge flooding. Curious what you think congressional Democrats are making a mistake by not including that in funding and not finally getting that thing built.
I'm very concerned about a hurricane coming up the Houston ship channel. That would not affect us, Harris County. Folks watching from elsewhere will say, well, why do I care? We're the heart of the petrochemical industry. When Hurricane Ike affected us, and it didn't come straight up our ship channel, it was enough damage to cause gas prices to go up around the nation for a while. Enormous environmental damage. And so this is the nation's energy economy that is living here. And we have to protect it on top of the lives, on top of the environment, on top of just the sheer infrastructure and work that comprises this region. And so we desperately need that coastal barrier. I know that the congressional delegation locally is very much fighting to get that funding. And we have to remember it's not like the funding comes and the barrier comes up the next day. It is a very long project. So I'm going to keep pushing for that. We need our legislative delegation, not just locally, but in the state and the nation, to recognize the importance of it. And then locally, we're working with neighboring counties, with our industry, with the port to try and see, okay, what might be sort of an interim limited solution, because we can't wait 15 years for this thing to be built and just hope we're not going to be hit before then.
Judge, I just read that you drew a Republican challenger for the fall election next year. Houston Chronicle's reporting, I'm sure you've probably seen that the president of the Humble ISD School Board, I think Martha Dixon, that she intends to run. How much do you expect your reelection to cost next year?
Well, I am not taking anything for granted. I think we had a challenger already. Someone had filed for a judge a few weeks ago. I'm not remembering the name already. So a very, very much I'm expecting all manner of challengers. There's always going to be naysayers. So I'm ready for a fight. I'm going to take everything seriously, but I know we're going to win. We have a lot of support. I continue to focus on doing right by the community, and it's going to be expensive, probably. Yeah, a couple $1 million, I'd imagine, at the very least.
Judge, we always appreciate your time. Thank you.